Do you always talk this much, or is this just your way of auditioning for the mop closet? Trent Mallory said, loud enough for the break room to hear. I froze with my coffee halfway to my lips, rainwater still dripping from my coat. The laughter that followed was polite, corporate, and cowardly. My name is Simone Parker. I am 46, and I have spent nearly 2 decades keeping the heart of Brightforge Diagnostics beating. We make sterile sensor cartridges used in hospital monitors. When one tiny seal fails, people get hurt. So I learned to care about everything. My phone buzzed again. 12 missed calls. 2 days earlier, Trent had looked me in the eye and told me I was not ready for the director of plant systems role. Too operational, he said, as if the plant ran on pep talks. I had walked into that meeting with numbers, defects down, changeovers faster. A brutal inspection turned into a clean report because I rebuilt our documentation when my predecessor quit and took the manuals with him. I thought facts still mattered. Trent barely skimmed my binder. We need fresh perspective, he said, tapping his pen like a judge. Someone with strategic energy. Strategic energy, it turned out, was the nickname of the new hire, Lyle Preston, nephew of our CEO, Marston Klein. Lyle had a glowing business degree and hands that looked like they had never met a torque wrench. He would be arriving soon as Deputy Director of Plant Systems. Deputy. In the role I had been promised by 3 leadership teams, all of whom had conveniently moved on. So you want me to train him, I said. Trent smiled the way a man smiles when he thinks the world is a vending machine that accepts arrogance. You are the institutional memory, Simone. Be a team player. That was when I stopped swallowing my anger and started sharpening it. In the break room, Trent's insult still hung in the air. I set my coffee down carefully. I looked at him. If I were auditioning for the mop closet, Trent, I would still be overqualified. A few people choked on their snacks. Trent's grin tightened. He liked punching down because it meant no one punched back. I did not raise my voice. I did not storm out. I did something far more dangerous in corporate terms. I went to my desk and opened my job description. It was a masterpiece of vagueness. Maintain production documentation. Support quality initiatives as assigned. Coordinate problem solving when requested. Standard hours. No on-call requirement. No mention of arriving early to review night shift logs or answering panicked calls because a sterilizer alarm was screaming. No mention of being the human bridge between departments that did not like each other. So I decided to become exactly what they paid for. That afternoon, after the meetings ended and the fluorescent lights began their buzzing chant, I turned off my work phone. Then I simplified my inbox. If a message was not addressed to me by name, it went to the correct departmental mailbox. If it was addressed to me, I answered it during business hours, with the calm politeness of a woman who had finally read the fine print. At home, my daughter Tessa stared at me from the kitchen table like I was a stranger who had wandered in by mistake. "You are early," she said. "I am reclaiming my hours," I said, hanging my coat. "Also, this household deserves a competent dinner." Tessa blinked. "Are you quitting?" "No," I said. "I am obeying." She watched me like she was taking notes for a future documentary titled When Mom Snapped. I saw hope flicker behind her eyes, hope that I would be present. My phone stayed dark, and for the first time in years, the silence felt like leverage. By the next workday, the building felt like a kitchen after the head chef quietly steps out. The ovens still glow, but everyone suddenly remembers they never learned the timers. I arrived around the start of business hours, not before. The security guard looked up, surprised, like he had been expecting my shadow to show up early and haunt the corridors. A red alert flashed from Sterile Suite B, a humidity excursion. Normally, I would be in a hairnet within minutes, reading sensor data and calming the operators. Instead, I forwarded the alert to environmental controls, quality assurance, and the sterility team lead. My job description said, "Coordinate when requested," not "carry every department on my back." Mid-morning, Kara Weller from Quality leaned over my cubicle wall. Simone, did you see the excursion? I saw it, I said, still typing my scheduled calibration report. So you are handling it? That is a quality investigation, I said. I routed it to your team lead. Kara frowned. But you always... I have been asked to focus on my core responsibilities, I said, smiling as if this was a wellness initiative. By midday, 3 separate issues were stalled because nobody could agree who owned them. I watched the email threads multiply like mold. Then Lyle Preston arrived, escorted by Trent like a trophy. Lyle was younger than I expected, with perfect hair and a suit that had never been near a clean room. Simone, Trent announced, this is our Deputy Director of Plant Systems. You will get him up to speed. Lyle offered a bright handshake. I am excited to learn from you. I am excited for you to learn from the manuals, I said. Trent blinked. Lyle laughed uncertainly, unsure whether I was joking. I was not. I had built those manuals. Every shortcut I had taken over the years to keep the place running was written down somewhere, because I do not believe in mysteries where patient safety is concerned. Trent pulled me aside. Do not get cute, he hissed. I need you to support this transition. I am supporting it, I said. Within my role. His eyes narrowed. Your role is to do what is needed. My role is what you wrote, I said. You were very clear about the boundaries. Lyle followed me to the production floor and asked earnest questions. To his credit, he listened. To his disadvantage, he did not know what he did not know. So the sterilizer is basically a really big dishwasher? He asked. It is a validated thermal process, I said. That comparison will make the validation engineers weep. He scribbled notes, eyes wide. Noted. An hour later, shipping called my desk. A client portal rejected our label batch because of a barcode change. Can you fix it? The truck is waiting. That is shipping systems, I said. Route it through your supervisor. But you have the override. I used to, I said. Overrides require documented authority. Mine does not include it anymore. Silence. Then a small, defeated, okay. Late afternoon, the humidity issue escalated into a partial hold on product. Trent stormed onto the floor, red-faced. He found me walking past with my clipboard. Why is this not resolved? He snapped. Because the responsible teams are still investigating, I said. I am sure the documented procedure will guide them. He stared at me like I had slapped him with a spreadsheet. You are enjoying this. I am enjoying dinner with my daughter tonight, I said. I left at the end of my scheduled hours. Behind me, Brightforge kept spinning without its quiet mechanic. On the drive home, my phone buzzed again and again. I let it ring. Revenge does not always need a match. Sometimes it only needs boundaries. The next day brought the kind of panic that makes executives forget their leadership quotes and start speaking in plain fear. I walked in around early morning to find the lobby crowded with suits. Not our usual suits. These looked imported. The receptionist mouthed, "Conference room C." Inside, Trent was pacing. Marston Klein, our CEO, sat at the head of the table, jaw tight. 2 corporate advisors hovered near the wall, and across from them sat an operations director from our biggest customer, Pulse Health Systems. Marston saw me and exhaled. Simone, thank goodness. Trent jumped in. Pulse has flagged failures in incoming inspection. Their launch is at risk. The Pulse director slid a report across the table. Seal compression drifting. Sterility indicators trending wrong. Packaging torque profiles mismatched. I skimmed it and felt the answer click into place. This is a known interaction between our sterilization profile and their updated pouch film, I said. The correction is documented in our process library. Marston leaned forward. Can you fix it now? I can, I said. But I have the monthly compliance review scheduled later this morning. It has a hard deadline. Missing it triggers citations and can stop production entirely. Silence. People did the math. Marston rubbed his forehead. What are our options? Option 1, I said evenly. Lyle executes the documented fix under my guidance. He is the deputy director of plant systems. Lyle sat beside Trent, pale, notebook trembling. I am not ready for that. You are ready to read, I said. The steps are written. You will learn faster doing the work than watching me do it. Trent snapped. This is not a training exercise. It is, I said. Because you made it one. The Astropulse director watched me with interest, like someone who had seen this movie before. Marston's gaze sharpened. Simone, something has changed. Yes, I said. I stopped donating my expertise. Trent scoffed. Do not start the martyr routine. I smiled. A martyr dies. I am just billing correctly. Marston held up a hand. Be direct. What do you need to stabilize this? Authority that matches responsibility, I said, and a role that reflects what I already do. Trent's face flushed. He knew exactly what I meant. One advisor cleared his throat. We also need to address dependency risk. I nodded. You mean the part where one person has been acting as the glue, the map, and the fire extinguisher? The Astropulse director leaned forward. If your plant cannot stabilize, we will move our orders. We cannot gamble on improvisation. I glanced at Trent. Improvisation is his brand. Trent shot back. Simone, you cannot hold the company hostage. I am not, I said. I am following policy. Marston's eyes narrowed. Do you have another offer? I did not need to lie. Yes, Glacial Arc Biotech contacted me. Plant Systems Director, higher pay, clear authority. Trent made a choking sound. Marston straightened. All right. Lyle starts the fix with your guidance. Trent stays out of the way. And you and I talk privately after Astropulse sees progress. On the floor, I handed Lyle the binder and pointed to the section. He read with frantic focus, and finally asked the right kind of questions. Why this parameter first? He asked. Because step 2 assumes step 1 is stable, I said. Manufacturing is a chain. Ego is just noise. He swallowed. Trent told me this job was mostly coordination. Coordination is useful, I said. It does not replace competence. By late afternoon, the critical adjustments were underway, and Astropulse agreed to retest. As I washed my hands outside the clean room, Marston appeared beside me. Come to my office, he said. His tone was calm, but his eyes were calculating. Brightforge had finally reached the part where it had to admit what it owed me, and I was done accepting payment in compliments. Marston's office smelled like expensive wood and decisions made by people who never wore hairnets. He closed the door and gestured for me to sit. One corporate advisor joined us. Marston did not waste words. We mishandled your advancement. Trent pushed for Lyle. I allowed it. Tell me what you want. Revenge, the kind that lasts, is structural. It changes the rules so the same stunt cannot be pulled on the next competent woman. I want the plant systems director role, I said, with written authority, not implied authority that disappears when it is inconvenient. The advisor nodded. Marston stayed silent. Second, I said, budget for 2 senior specialists, validation and controls. No critical knowledge trapped in one head again. Marston exhaled. Reasonable. Third, I said, Trent is removed from operational leadership. Marston stiffened. That is personal. It is professional, I said. He overrides holds, pushes untrained staffing, and then acts shocked when reality bites. The advisor leaned forward. Do you have documentation? I slid a thin folder across the desk. Emails where Trent ordered process changes without validation. Notes where he pressured quality to release product early. A cheerful message about leveraging family talent, while my promotion request sat unanswered. I did not need drama. Trent had written his own case in corporate font. Marston's eyes moved over the pages, then narrowed. He did this without compliance? He looped them after, I said, like a person calls the fire department after lighting the curtains. The advisor made a quiet sound of disgust. Marston's face hardened. What are you asking for? Marston said. A reassignment, I said. Strategy or procurement. Somewhere he can count things and stop touching systems that can hurt people. Marston leaned back. And Lyle? Lyle stays, I said. But he starts where he belongs. Manufacturing engineer. He learns. If he earns advancement, he gets it. Not because his last name matches yours. The advisor cleared his throat. Compensation? We discussed numbers. Director-level pay. A retention bonus tied to customer stability. Written authority over process changes and staffing in my department. And one policy change. Operations leaders must log floor hours and complete certification training before they manage sterile production. Marston studied me. You have thought this through. I have had years, I said. You simply did not notice. He nodded slowly. If you accept, you stabilize Astropulse and restructure the plant. I accept, I said, with one more condition. Marston raised an eyebrow. Trent apologizes, I said. Publicly. Not for my feelings. For undermining safety and disrespecting expertise. The advisor blinked. Marston's mouth tightened. Then he gave a small, grim nod. All right. When I left, I found Trent in the hallway, arms crossed, trying to look powerful. Well? He demanded. Well, I said. Congratulations. You have been moved to a job where you can no longer break anything important. His eyes widened. What did you do? I followed documentation, I said. It turns out your favorite word cuts both ways. That afternoon, Trent was summoned. His shouting carried down the corridor until the door closed and the sound turned into muffled consequences. Later, Lyle approached me near the floor, still clutching the binder. I did not ask for this, he said quietly. I know, I said, but you did accept it. He swallowed. What happens now? Now you learn, I said. And I stop being everyone's emergency contact. For the first time in years, I felt satisfaction that had nothing to do with winning an argument. The system that protected Trent was finally cracking. Revenge is sweetest when it tastes like reform. Trent's apology happened in the same place he liked to perform, the all-hands meeting area, under the banner that read, "We own quality." It was a bold slogan for a company that had been renting it. He stood at the front with Marston beside him, jaw clenched. I owe this organization an apology, Trent said. I dismissed expertise, pushed decisions outside proper validation, and I disrespected Simone Parker and the plant systems team. Those actions created risk. That is on me. The room stayed quiet. People were not savoring his humiliation. They were recalibrating their understanding of gravity. Afterward, Marston announced my promotion and the restructure. It was not a parade. It was a correction. In the following weeks, I did what I had wanted to do for years. I made the plant function without me as the emergency patch. We mapped ownership clearly. We built escalation trees that did not rely on call Simone. We trained supervisors to read the same data I had been reading alone. We updated the process library so it was usable, not just impressive. Astropulse retested our product and cleared the shipment. Lyle started in the engineering bullpen with a hard hat and no special titles. He looked miserable for about a day. Then he looked determined. He stayed late, not to perform, but to learn. He asked operators what they wished the office people understood. He stopped saying strategic like it was a magic word. One afternoon, while we reviewed a deviation report, he said, I did not realize how much I did not know. I nodded. That sentence is the beginning of competence. He hesitated. Are you going to leave anyway, for that other company? I am staying, I said, because I am finally being paid for the job I have been doing. The biggest change was at home. I started walking through my front door while there was still light in the sky. Tessa stopped looking startled when she saw me. She started assuming I would be there, which is a quiet miracle. One evening, she slid her chemistry workbook toward me. "Help," she said, not as a plea, but as an expectation. We worked through the problems, and after a while she asked, "So you won?" "I corrected," I said. She snorted. "That is a yes." "I did not win by screaming," I said. "I won by letting people meet the consequences of what they ignored." "And Trent?" she asked. "Trent got exactly what he earned," I said. "A job where his mouth can no longer outrun his understanding." Tessa tapped her pencil. "That is kind of mean." "It is kind," I said. "Mean would have been letting him keep making safety decisions." At work, the plant ran smoother, not because I became a hero, but because we stopped relying on heroes. Policies were clear. Training was real. Titles started matching competence. On my desk, I framed my old job description like a museum artifact. When people asked why, I told them the truth. "That piece of paper taught this company the cost of underpaying expertise," I said. "I simply stopped subsidizing the gap." If you ever find yourself carrying an organization that pretends it can walk without you, remember this. You do not need revenge with flames. You need revenge with boundaries, documentation, and the patience to watch a fragile system reveal itself. When the phone stops ringing after hours, and your home stops feeling like a hotel, you realize the real victory is not the title. It is the freedom to be fully present in the life you were building all along.